They are growing champions in Nebraska. Marta provides another goal for the ages. And can the American men finish off Jamaica and St. Louis? This and more on Monday's Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome into Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's most entertaining country, coming to you live Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. I'm Robert Kerr, happy to be joined once again by Mr. Jason Davis. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm recognizing champions today. We're going to talk a little bit about them later. But Union Omaha, congratulations, USL League One champions. 3-0. They took care of Spokane Velocity this weekend, Robert. So congratulations. You got a soft spot for Omaha. Spent just a tiny bit of time there, like visiting when I was a kid. They have an Air Force base, so I've been there. That's about all I know about Omaha. They got, Creighton, college baseball, and apparently the champions of USL League One. So good on them.
A dominant force in USL League One. It's becoming. How did you take in your weekend, by the way?
Steaks.
Okay,
I forgot about the steaks. You can't miss the steaks that they got out there in Omaha. What did I do I went to a park. I watched some soccer. I just did nice family thing. It's fall. It's that time of year when it's just cool enough to be outside and enjoy it, but not cold enough to hate it. So there you go.
Yeah, firmly autumn this weekend. Yeah, steaks and soccer, Omaha. That's a fun combo there.
Right.
Be sure to tell all your people, like and subscribe to the channel. We're creeping up on 400, on our way to 500, on our eventual path to 50,000 subscribers. That'll be the day there, Jason. That'll be fun.
March. That's right. Join the movement. Be part of the MK Ultras. There you go.
Yeah, MK Ultras. Follow us along at MKickaround on X and Instagram. And we'll have to take some time to branch out to those other apps I keep on hearing about. There was a flood for the, was it Blue Sky? Hearing a lot about that in the last week or so.
It is a flood. It is a flood. There's a movement happening there too, but we don't need to debate the cultural implications of an exodus from one social media application to another. That's not our place. We're soccer people.
And if you want to remain totally neutral, write us an email, morningkickaround at gmail.com. All right, Jenny, let's go. Long balls for Monday morning. The United States men's national team returned to action in St. Louis, Missouri, second leg of the Nations League quarterfinal. Jason, long ball number one. What do you want to see tonight in St. Louis?
Improvement. Is that good enough, or is that specific enough? No, it's not.
Yep, pack it up. Call it a day. That's the show.
It. We're done. That's it. That's all you need to know. Improvement. Now, I think obviously difficult environment, difficult situation, difficult field, difficult weather, difficult everything down there in Kingston. Got the job done. Won a game. Again, we talked about this on Friday. We could relitigate the penalty, which was caused by Matt Turner and then saved by Matt Turner. The clearance off the line by Yunus Musa. The potential handball on Tim Ream, excuse me. There are a couple of things from that game that go, I don't know. I'm kind of bothered by that, a little worried. Jamaica didn't really push them, right? There was no effort from Jamaica to throw numbers forward. Now we find out Michail Antonio, who did not play in that game because of suspension, didn't even travel to St. Louis for a game he would have been eligible for. So that's a big piece off the board for Jamaica and Steve McLaren. They are not in a great place right now, down a goal going to St. Louis. I think I don't like making huge demands of this team, particularly in this moment with a new head coach, Robert. But I do think something pretty decisive. And it doesn't have to be 3 or 4 or 5. It can be a 2-0 victory that feels more comfortable. It can be lots more of the ball, lots more usage of the ball in effective ways, creating numerous chances. Let's get Ricardo Pepi another goal so we can get him really revved up to be the number 9 for this U.S. men's national team. How about those things, Robert?
Those all sound like very good things. Measured improvement. I mean, that's good to hear, or good. I'd love to see that. I mean, no mistakes. Yeah, tidy up the mistakes. Get the same kind of result. Tidy up the mistakes. Let's not see any wayward square balls in our own third that lead to dangerous situations, a professional, calm, reserve within
Professional.
themselves
I like
sort
that
of
word.
performance.
Professional. Let's keep everybody healthy. That's always a thing, right? Let's make sure everybody stays healthy. And otherwise, now in terms of like differences in how Pochettino sets them up, that's something, we know Johnny Cardoso is now out and going to miss this game. So he substituted Malik Tillman into the match. Tanner Tessman got the start alongside Cardoso, played with him for 20 minutes. At home, where, again, Jamaica's counterattack is still dangerous. You still have to be concerned about it on some level. But at home, does Pochettino decide, okay, I only need one holder, right? I only need one holding midfielder. It can be Tessman. Maybe it's even Busio in this game, who did come on and play in Kingston. Again, Ricardo Pepi to start, Pulisic to start, McKennie to start. Yes, please. Tim Weah is available. Wonder what about that wrinkle? Does that change anything? We wondered about wingbacks down in Kingston. It didn't really set up initially like that, although, again, Musa was kind of drifting in places, and Scally was tucking inside at times, and Robinson's up and down the flank because that's what he does anyway. Does Tim Weah start? If so, who is sacrificed for Tim Weah? If you take a holding midfielder out of the situation, because you had two in Kingston, you do have an open spot higher up the field, or you could play. Again, you could play two number 8s, although exactly how that looks, I don't know. So there's a couple of things here that are kind of intriguing about what Pochettino might do in St. Louis.
My mind's a little bit cloudy. There was a lot of weekend since the first leg. Who played down the right for the United States in leg 1 on Thursday night?
Again, nominally Yunus Musa was in that position, and Weston McKennie was tucked further inside. But of course, everything kind of floats. Right? Again, Scally was getting into that space on the overlap at times. He's not super effective at it, but Musa was tucking in. He also at times can play, again, more as a wing back when you have Scally tucked in as a third center back, and those other midfielders can push higher up the field. So, and you can always drop one of those midfielders if necessary, if both of your fullbacks are up the field. So there's a lot of things happening there.
Is there any other defenders, center backs that you'd like to see that we didn't see a whole lot of? I mean, there was some wobbly moments for sure in the back line for the United States. Is there anyone else that you'd like to see get a run out?
I mean, it's not. It was wobbly, but again, you kind of consider the situation, and do you hammer Tim Ream and McKenzie for their play? Austin Trusty is a player I like. Again, I'm not sure he's getting challenged all that much at Celtic right now, so there is that to consider. But again, you kind of have to get to a place of, let's see somebody else besides Tim Ream, and maybe that's not Austin Trusty. Maybe it's Miles Robinson. Although I don't think anybody is super high on his ceiling being good enough to be part of a strong defense going into the World Cup in 2026.
You touched on Jamaica's availability a little bit there. It was kind of fun to see Steve McLaren's natural position of anguish on the sidelines. I don't know how many times I've seen him happy, and he had his ceremonial head and hands, as I know him for his times in England. I'm curious if on the upswing, obviously they got Liam Bailey back in the mix. That's good to see him. But also you said that the forward
Michael
for
Antonio.
Antonio's out. So are
Ham,
they getting players back in the fold, or are they losing players again?
Well, I mean, I think there's always this question of the rift or the division between the English players who are choosing to play for Jamaica, who are part of the diaspora, and the Jamaican-born players. I don't have enough of information on the intricacies of those relationships to talk about them. I mean, they've added some extra players to that group, and is that, again, I don't know that it makes them better until they figure out how to make all this stuff work. I will go back a minute. We talked about center backs. Certainly should mention Chris Richards, who I think, again, maybe a surprise that we didn't see him in that first leg get the start and get it up. But then again, I think coming back from injury for Chris Richards, so where his fitness is maybe a question, and maybe they didn't want to risk him on that field in particular. I think that's could be part of the story. So again, some things for the U.S. men's national team. And as much as it's like, don't take beating Jamaica for granted, Don't look past Jamaica. You can't look past anybody, even in CONCACAF. This is a team the U.S. should beat fairly comfortably at home in front of what should be a partisan crowd. I think there were a couple thousand tickets left last time I saw an update. Usually Stephen Goff of the Washington Post has those. I think that they're going to go closer to game time. We should have what amounts to mostly a full house there in St. Louis, and that's every reason to expect a strong performance from the U.S. Demand a strong performance from the U.S.
Yeah, curious to see what the atmosphere is like in St. Louis. Last week when we reviewed the game, you noted that there was a little bit of apathy just in general about this team. So we'll see what the energy levels are like in St. Louis tonight at 8. USA taking in a 1-0 aggregate lead coming into the second leg of Nations League quarterfinal action. Long ball number 2 here for Monday. The National Women's Soccer League final is set. There was a weekend full of semifinals, and probably the highlight of the bunch, Marta, the Brazilian legend, does it again.
Yeah.
She put on a show, puts about 3-4 players on their backsides, and
Do
scored
we
what became the winning goal in a 3-2 win over KC Current.
do we have a word for this in soccer? I mean, because in basketball, you go up over somebody, you dunk on them, you got posterized, right? That's what we say. That became a thing because there's a poster of that moment, and you got posterized. Now you're on the poster with whoever going over the top and dunking on you. Do we have an equivalent in soccer? Because Marta did that in this game. I mean, that dropping two defenders to their butts in this with the same chop was, and then to cut it back the other way and get beat another defender, get the shot off. I mean, again, how old is she? 63, 64 years old, something like that at this point. I mean, I'm kidding. Younger than I am, Marta. Still getting it done. Incredible stuff. And this is we're talking about the MLS Cup playoffs, Robert,
Mm-hmm.
and how the top seeds got ousted in the East, and it's kind of changed the way people are thinking about these playoffs. And we have a problem in soccer where we do this thing where if the top seeds don't get through, well, the playoffs are invalid and they're terrible. And why are we doing this? This is not right. Of course, we don't.
We
do
did it
that in
last
other,
week.
We don't do that in other sports. We just kind of go, oh, look, the wild card made the Super Bowl. Good for them. In soccer, we have a problem with it. In this case, the top seed goes in. The top two seeds make the final of the NWSL in 2024. And I guess, again, if it wasn't the two top seeds, I would say good for the teams that upset whoever they upset to get there. But this being the two top seeds, you can also say, oh, it's awesome that we get to see these two teams go up against each other. If we get to see Marta. And after, helping this Orlando team do what they did this season, top overall seed, get a chance to play for an NWSL final. Pretty incredible stuff.
The first semifinal on Saturday, Washington Spirit defeated reigning champions New York, New Jersey, Gotham FC in a penalty shootout. Packed house at Audi Stadium. Looked like a really good atmosphere for a very, very tight match.
Yeah, it was a noon kickoff in DC. We'll come to kickoff times later in the show.
Yeah,
but,
that's a topic.
Yeah, that's a topic. It was a noon kickoff in DC. I was otherwise indisposed. I was otherwise occupied with, kids and things and all this other stuff I got to do. So I didn't get to go. I would love to have been there, but from what I could tell, it absolutely was a raucous atmosphere. And this is what you love to see this,
Mm-hmm.
right? You love to see a city rally behind its teams, especially this team, I mean, remember that the Spirit, and then like there have been the multiple leagues in women's soccer in America, and Washington's always had a team in them. This team used to play out at a soccer complex, right, in Boyd's, Maryland, which was where DC United would play Open Cup games, and where the Maryland Bobcats were playing or are playing. I know they got booted from their league, but that's their home venue these days. It is, it's an hour from DC no matter when you drive. I mean, no traffic. It's an hour from DC. Basically, it's not DC. It's not the kind of place that's going to kind of center everyone's focus when the hometown team is making a run to the final. Now that they play at Audi, and it's been a couple years now that they're playing at Audi and playing only at Audi because they were splitting games between 3 different venues at one point, it feels like the Washington Spirit is DC's team in a real way, and they've got great players. They've got great young talent that is tearing up the league at this point. I mean, I saw a whole article on Trinity Rodman's signature move, I think over the Athletic or something, and like That's the kind of player that's going to get people excited. And we can say this, right? We can move past this idea that the NWSL is for young girls or for a certain kind of sports fan. No, it's for everybody because they play awesome soccer and they have players that can do pretty incredible things on the field. And yeah, the spirit getting it done, I think, is good for soccer in DC. Especially, look, Gotham had an incredible run last year,
Yeah.
and they didn't get to do that at home, the final, but they did win, and I think they elevated attention. And then that's another team, right? Graduating from sort of a exurban location where they played their games to the venue, the soccer venue in the New York metropolitan area, and I think capturing some attention because of it. It's good to see.
What was the Gotham FC? They were rebranded a few years ago when they were in the rural areas. Were they the New York Sky?
No, they were Sky Blue FC is what they
Sky
were.
Blue FC. So yeah,
Right.
definitely NWSL stepping into a new era just of professionalization and facilities and whatnot. And it was great to see just like I guess um what do you call it? Appreciating the world class talent that is in the American women's first division. I mean, you
Right.
look at the Orlando lineup. We got Marta Dabinia, and the list goes on of just incredible world class players right here in the American backyard. And there's not many. You can't claim that the American soccer leagues are pushing like world's best. Other than
No,
in the
no,
NWSL.
that's exactly right. I think there are still some questions around the growth of the NWSL. What's the best approach for that? These are just debates that we're going to have, right? How much expansion is appropriate? What kind of spending can you do without jeopardizing the league's financial health? Of course, they've signed the deal with CBS that's got them a better platform. Again, you talk about we talk about the stage that they are provided by those deals. I mean, obviously coming out of the pandemic, coming out of the World Cup, building something, getting people excited. They've done unique and sort of aggressive things like get rid of the draft, which is going to be a fascinating thing to watch and see how it affects the league. There's always going to be a pull because of culture, and when I say that, I mean if you play in a place like France or Spain or Germany, there is a soccer culture around you that is very different than what we have in the United States.
Mm.
And of course, even if it's not the same sort of level of glory, there's the Champions League, right? You get to represent Lyon or Barcelona or whoever in the Champions League, and that still has cachet. And NWSL cannot offer that to the best players in the world. But if the league itself kind of becomes this Champions League level environment because everybody in the league has great talent, because the parity is a feature of American sports the way it's not in Europe. And so Barcelona's beating their league opponents 6-7-8-0 most of the time these days. That's great, and they obviously went and won the Champions League, and that's great too. But I think there's something to be said for I want to play against competitive teams every single week. And if I can do it in a league that's got not only the U.S. women's national team talent, but some of the other best talent in the world, if they're being attracted to this league, that is a very good sign.
So NWSL final, pretty juicy. The top two seeds will face each other on Saturday night at 8:00 on CBS. Orlando versus Washington Spirit. If you were to pick a winner, is there
You're
one
making
that
me
you
pick
could
a
lean?
winner. You're
I
making me
mean,
pick a winner. Orlando, the top overall seed, who had an incredible year, and the Washington Spirit, that play about 20 minutes from my house. Come on, Robert. What are you talking about? I got to go with the hometown team. That's heart, not head. Although I think it will be a very competitive match. What do we got? When is that happening? What's going down? Give us the details there.
it is Saturday night, 8:00 CBS at the CPKC Stadium, Kansas City, Missouri. So the Kansas City Current coming within a goal of playing a championship game in their home stadium, but not to
Yeah.
be. It is Orlando versus Washington.
Yeah, it's real quick on that before we move on. The the neutral venue, right? I get it from an NWSL perspective, right? It's the same kind of reasoning MLS used for a neutral venue. You can control everything, you can plan everything, you get this long runway to using that venue for your showpiece event. Obviously, the television networks that are broadcasting your games, they prefer that because they can plan, they can get things ready. They know that the venue is appropriate for their cameras, where the camera's going to go, where their talent going to sit, those kind of things. But I do think we're going to lose that opportunity for the home crowd to be there backing their team in a final. And I imagine that one day, we will get there again, where the NWSL says, let's do a home final. The top seed, the higher seed gets the opportunity to host. But there are obviously some venue things in the NWSL that they have to deal with that make it a little bit more difficult. But great to see Kansas City get a chance to host this game.
Long ball number 3. There was plenty of international fixtures over the weekend. Probably the headline. I know you're really enthused about this one, Jason. England promoted in the Nations League.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations to the 3 Lions for getting promoted back to League A. Good. They had to slum it in League B. Robert, what a travesty! What a shamockery! Travis Shamrock. How do you say that word? I don't know that word.
Shambolicism.
It's shambolic. It was shambolic. It was absolutely shambolic that England was playing down there. And they romped Ireland 5-0, which I feel bad for my Irish friends, people I work with, Tommy Smith, Keith Costigan. Probably not too happy about that. Probably not the way they wanted that one to go. It gets a little bit more complicated than just football clubs or football teams, national teams playing each other when it comes to England and Ireland.
Notable that the players that switched their one-time switches away from Ireland did not feature.
Yeah, well, they did last time. Declan Rice and Jack Grealish, I think, both scored against Ireland in the past, in recent past. So maybe just don't rub that salt in the Irish wound at this point.
I watched the wrong part of this game. I saw the first half where absolutely nothing happened, and then the game ended up 5-0 when I didn't watch.
So here's the big question. I think we asked this after they beat Greece, right? When they had to go away and beat Greece after the loss at home, after all that shame over that result. Is it time to cancel Thomas Tuchel's contract and hand the job to Lee Carsley permanently? Is that what they need to do, Robert?
I mean, he's given a lot of opportunity for someone to walk in through the door.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, obviously they're going to go with what they've decided. I'm just kidding about this. I don't think Lee Carsley's the answer anyway.
It kind of just this window kind of showed the depth to me of England can beat international quality sides with not their first team. I mean, they don't have they have their main head coach, and they had 8 players drop out of the camp, and they've had some rotation, and they were able to win these games.
Yeah, I mean, again, Ireland's not very good, so let's not get ahead of ourselves on just how impressive this was from England. I mean, you still started Jude Bellingham, right? You still had top-level players from the Premier League in this team, and as much as you might like an Evan Ferguson or a Sammy Smodic.
Yeah, I was going to say don't hate on Schmodich. I mean, he's doing great things. I have a Peterborough Posh jersey. This one up here in my background, that's a Schmodix jersey.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, they
world beater.
29-year-old left back Callum O'Dowda starting for Ireland really can measure up to what England brings to the table. I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to hate on Ireland, by the way. It is the reality of the situation that England's talent is miles above what Ireland brings to the table, and so you can't really judge this too much. It's what was necessary, right? It's what was necessary from England, and I think it will, now that they got promoted back to League A and Carsley will step aside and Tuchel will come in, they can think about achieving big things again. They can think about getting back to a final and maybe this time winning it.
Other notable scores in Europe, France got back to winning ways after their 0-0 draw with Israel in the first game of the window. They won 3-1, 2 goals by Rabiot in this one.
Yeah, that's who you expect to score France's goals, right? Adrien Rabiot. That's the guy you're like, yeah, who's going to pick up the goal scoring slack with Kylian Mbappe not here? Rabiot. I mean, that's not normal, right? But when you're a good team, or when you have talent across your team, you can do things like that. And they still, without, I mean, the 0-0 against Israel was surprising, but they have 24 shots in that game against Israel and they couldn't score. In this one, when you're still starting players that are at places like Chelsea and PSG and Inter Milan, I mean, come on, you should win this game, or you should be competitive rather. Should have beaten Israel, beat an Italian team under Spalletti. That I don't know. Italy is always a little bit confounding internationally and has been for years.
Yeah, winning the Euros and then not qualifying for the World Cups around it. I mean, that doesn't
Right.
make any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, but I mean, on the day, right? If you consider the stats, and we know that there is only so much value in expected goals when you're talking about a one game sample size, it's not a lot for either. Neither team created a bunch of clear cut chances, and in fact, if you kind of look at the balance of it, Italy, had a little bit more going for them in that regard than France. Both of them just won by the way that the standards, what these are measured, the standards of big chances, just one big chance each. So we're not talking about a game where France was dominant and looked the part and we're lining them up for the next big tournament that they're possibly going to win.
Other score in that UEFA Nations League group, Israel getting a 1-0 win over Belgium. And Belgium, talking about a team that has completely fallen off, 1-1-4 in 6 matches for Belgium.
Yeah, Belgium's going through a regression after all those years of being hyped up as a potential European champion, a potential World Cup winner. They're aging in some significant ways, which I think is probably affecting them. Kevin De Bruyne not part of this, right? You're not looking at that Belgium team anymore when you're starting. Openda's a nice young player at Leipzig, but it's not the same level that you used to have with Lukaku and Benteke and those guys. So I don't know. I don't know what the issue is with Belgium. I don't think a lot of people love Domenico Tedesco anyway as a coach, and it didn't work out against Israel.
On Saturday, some Eastern European teams taking a pounding. Germany getting a 7-0 win over Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Netherlands getting a 4-0 win over Hungary.
I mean, those are expected score lines.
I mean, Hungary's had a peak time where they had a good run at the Euros and they beat some big names, but that seems to be fading.
They did have a little bit of they had a half a minute. They had a run, right? But their talent is never going to be enough to sort of just kind of keep this go. They might find one or two moments a period of time where they can be competitive. But Puskás not coming through that door again. It's not going to happen for Hungary. Not the way that they're set up right now.
I mean, Germany putting up 7 against any international team is pretty wild. Musiala, Havertz, Wirtz with 2, Sané with another. Talk about a player under the radar who used to be one of the best, or at least leading the line at Manchester City. Sané. I mean, we don't hear that much from him anymore.
I mean, yeah. I mean, his time came to an end there. I mean, he had how many Premier League titles did Leroy Sané win?
At least 1 or 2.
Yeah, a couple. I mean, he's Bayern Munich player. He's still
it's a deep squad. I guess with the move to Germany.
Yeah. I mean, let's not looks too harshly. I know he's he's only got I don't know how many goals he has this season for Bayern Munich. Obviously, Harry Kane's eating up a lot of goals for Munich. They're looking like they're going to win the Bundesliga, get back to their old ways and win the Bundesliga. So Leroy Sané will get a winner's medal and all the things that come with playing at Bayern Munich, which could be worse. Could be worse for you. And
then to put a bow on it, it's the end of the international break for Europe. So what does that mean? Club football is returning next weekend to Europe. So that is the Nations League. I know you're on the edge of the seat, but we can move right along from there. That has been the Long Balls. Be sure to like and subscribe out there. Morning Kickaround on the YouTube, and then M Kickaround on the social medias, X and Instagram, or write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com. but can't harp on it enough. Subscribe to the channel for us to make it to our eventual goal, 50,000 plus subscribers. We're going to take a breath, a sip of our water, and come right back with a special guest for the big question here on Morning Kickaround. The big question of the day here on Monday morning, what is going on in the USL? While the MLS Cup playoffs have been on hold during the international break, the American second and third divisions have been in full swing on and off the field. For expert insight, we are happy to be joined by John Morrissey, whose work can be found at Backheel, the USL Show, and on social media as USL Tactics. John, welcome to Morning Kickaround.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah.
Hi, John. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. What are we getting into first, Rob?
Yeah, lots to chew on. Let's start with Jason is rocking the shirt. There is a champion has been crowned this weekend. Union Omaha winning their second in front of 5,000 fans. Tell us about Union Omaha and their run in the USL League One.
Union Omaha, really one of the best run clubs, arguably at any level of soccer in the United States, consistently competitive in League One since they joined the division, but also very good in terms of the off-field factors. You mentioned that 5,800 fan attendance. Almost no one's putting up that level of support in League One. A lot of it comes down on the field to the vision of manager Dom Casciato, somebody who was an assistant in the championship for a long time, understands how he wants to play the game. This team really had a lot of turnover coming into 2024 as well. They lost 5 players to the USL Championship, 2 of their real veteran leaders leaving to teams within the league. That Casciato was able to really recruit players that fit his vision. Ultimately, this team wins the Players' Shield by finishing first in the regular season. They kind of roll through the playoffs, if we're being honest. Like, no one really was able to touch them or create chances against them. Rightfully, they're walking away with the title.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a debate on the show about playoffs and soccer and how we get caught up in it a little bit. But USL League One, the front runner, took care of business in the playoff bracket too.
Yeah, it's a bit of a thing for me as well, where, I don't know, you look at the championship where a team like Lou City was setting records all season long. I'm going to go to the grave thinking they were the best team in the league in 2024, but the playoffs are the playoffs, and they count for something. But it's good to see a team like Omaha really cement their status as kind of the top dog in this season.
Well, let's celebrate this particular victory. And obviously, by being the number one overall seed, winning the Players' Shield, they got home field advantage. How does Casciato use that? I mean, what were the keys to this particular game in terms of the approach, or is it just Union Omaha did what Union Omaha usually does, and they're that good to win that way?
We definitely saw some adjustment throughout the playoff run. They were a lot more patient, getting a lot more, long possessive sequences in their first game against Richmond. There were some defensive frailties to start against Greenville in the second round, but they overcame that. This game was really the testament to, okay, Omaha is going to come out, press high out of their 3-4-3, make sure that Spokane can't really do what they do best. And this is a velocity team that deserves a shout out, right? They came in as the 7th seed in their expansion season. They made a really impressive run to this championship game. But they are at their best, Spokane, when they can get touches for Andre Lewis and Jack Denton in the central midfield. Time and again, Omaha pressed in a way that didn't let that happen. Spokane didn't end up putting a single shot on target across the 90 minutes. They only got 9 touches in the Omaha box. It was an absolute defensive masterclass from the way Casciato set up that team. And granted, 2 of the goals for Omaha in that 3-0 win came from set pieces, which can be a bit misleading because they really felt like the dominant side throughout.
John, let me ask you a question real quick before we move on. I don't know if Robert's got another question on Union Omaha, but you and I have talked a lot over the years about these teams and their success on the field. But of course, the story of the USL is always about sort of the off-the-field development. Werner Stadium, Werner Park, wherever they play in Omaha, getting a big crowd, but that's not a permanent solution for them. Do you have any information for people who may be curious about what Union Omaha's plan for a permanent stadium might be?
Yeah, they are. I mean, projecting for hopefully 2026 to have a venue of their own that is soccer specific in a strong location within the city of Omaha. That'll be something that really puts them on a firmer financial footing as well. Kind of an issue for a lot of USL teams is that you're renting a venue, you're splitting the revenue that you do make, and it doesn't allow you to be viable. Omaha is going to rectify that. They're well on the way. When they build that stadium, they're planning to jump up to the USL Championship as well. It's really the model for how this league at a macro level wants their teams to operate on the field, build the infrastructure off of it, and then move up and be rewarded for that success.
I guess we'll stick with USL 1 with this. There was a couple teams have are not going to be returning in 2025, and there's going to be 5 teams coming in to the league. That was quite a press release last week. Northern Colorado and another Fuego out of USL 1, and they say they are bringing it back to 5 teams. Can you explain what's going on there?
So the thing about USL League One is that really the timing of when it launched was pretty immediately before the coronavirus hit. And that kind of threw off a lot of plans for rapid expansion to get this thing up to speed. Coming out of that, FC Tucson was really the only team the league had on the West Coast. And so you see Northern Colorado come in and Central Valley come in. Given that the net worth requirement for a Division III league is $10 million, which for you and me is a lot of money, but for running a sports team really isn't that much. There's kind of a sense that both of these teams were let in to get those numbers up, make sure you had the West Coast block, but maybe the vetting wasn't there. And you've seen it with Northern Colorado, who's been beset by lawsuits all season long over a somewhat scammy stadium project. Central Valley operationally has been very visibly kind of under the level you would want. They had the controversy with Jermaine Jones and the player abuse and the suspension and all of that. This feels like League One saying, we're adding a block of 5. We're going to trim the fat a little bit for clubs that at one point served a purpose, but don't fit the operating model, don't conduct business in a way that is consistent with the ethos the USL is trying to create.
Yeah.
And in any notes on the 5 teams that are coming in?
Yeah, I mean, Portland Hearts of Pine is the one that really stands out. They've been doing a lot locally. They've got great branding online, which is kind of why I'm noting them first. But them, Westchester, and the kind of New York suburbs, a club out in California in Antelope Valley, then a club in Texoma, which is sort of the middle of the country, then one in Naples, Florida. I can't say I know a ton about some of the groups, but it seems like good vibes. They've made smart hires on the coaching side. You feel bullish about this rather than saying, oh, League One's just letting anybody in.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear. Now I want to come back to sorry. Let's move on to USL Championship, Rob. That's what we want to do, right? We want to make sure we give some time to what we've got a final coming up in that league after Union Omaha was crowned. Go ahead.
Yeah, moving up to the second division USL Championship. The semifinals were played out this weekend. The final is set, Colorado versus Rhode Island FC. We'll get into those matches in just a second, but kind of the headline of that is the final is set for noon Eastern time in Colorado, putting the final of the second division of American soccer at 10 a.m. local time. What's up with that?
Yeah, so entering this season, the USL, who had traditionally really only had ESPN as their television partner, was able to work out a deal with CBS and their partner networks like Golazo and CBS Sports to get more games on the air, increase that presence. Part of that was getting matches on proper CBS, the thing you know of CBS Sunday Morning, 60 Minutes, the NFL. We had a handful in the regular season, and part of the agreement was we're also putting the USL Championships title game over the air on CBS. Given that it comes in the middle of college football season, the only time window that really worked out was 12 noon, regardless of where the game was going to end up being played. I think the league hoped it was going to be an East Coast game, but sometimes that's just out of your control. So yeah, 10 a.m. local in the mountains.
We do have this. I put this together. I have the quote from James Chambers, head coach of Colorado Springs Switchback. This was in local news in Colorado Springs. I think it's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. I think we're trying to grow this league, all the players, organizations, all the staff, and it's on national televised CBS, I believe. We're trying to put out a product there that looks good, feels good, seems good, and we throw it on at 10 a.m. in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. It is what it is. We'll adapt. We'll figure it out because these players don't know. No, he calls it a disgrace, John. And like again, I understand that mentality, but again, actually NWSL went through this, right? They went through this with an issue in Portland and a kickoff time, and the players cried bloody murder over that. I don't know. What do you think the balance is here? Because the platform of CBS is such a big opportunity for this league that they wouldn't otherwise have.
At the league level, you simply have to take what you can get from CBS. If you're going to put this match in front of hundreds of thousands of people, probably 10 to 20 times the audience that would come on CBS Sportsnet or ESPN Plus, you have to take it. And I understand where Coach Chambers is coming from. It's a really difficult position for really any team to be in, to play that game at 10 a.m. and for any club to try to promote and say, hey, come out to the championship game. Oh, actually, it's in the morning. It's a tough situation, but I think it's a decision, like you mentioned with the NWSL, that is going to be important for growth going forward. Hopefully we'll see it improve in 2025 and beyond. But
look, yeah. Didn't MLS do something like this during the pandemic with MLS's back? Do I remember some morning games, something like that? Obviously, at the time, that was a very unique situation. But I think part of the thought here, or part of my thinking is, okay, we already have this vast fan base of Americans who are very in tune with European soccer and watching the Premier League at 7 and 8 and 9 a.m. and even earlier on the West Coast and out in Colorado. Why not just tell them, hey, just replace your Premier League with some USL Championship, John? That's the answer, right? Get the pints out, give everybody a little sauce in the morning.
No, and every year, Loudoun United plays a game at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday that's kind of tied in with a local youth soccer camp. So there is a little bit of precedent, at least, within the USL. But yeah, I think it's an easy sell for trying to build the audience of, hey, instead of watching Liverpool, go check out the Colorado Springs Switchbacks.
There you go.
To get to the final, Colorado defeated Las Vegas Lights 1-0, and then expansion side Rhode Island FC defeated Charleston and a record-breaking goal scorer Nick Markinich. What were kind of like the takeaways from these semifinals for you?
Yeah, it's the defensive dominance of Rhode Island on one side. This is a club that has a lot of firepower in terms of their attacking group. They acquired the reigning Golden Boot winner heading into the season. Their forward Noah Fuson led the USL in assists. But they held Charleston, arguably one of the best attacking teams in the history of the league. Like you mentioned, Nick Markinich, who's going to be moving over to Spain at the end of this season. They held them to one goal that came off a free kick and only 9 shot attempts for the entire game. Nobody goes into Charleston and does that. And it's really a function of the project Conno Smith has put together at that club, really imprinting his identity, imprinting that grit and physicality on this team. On the Colorado Springs side, they were really able to absorb pressure and control the game against Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a great story in and of themselves. They've kind of come from worst to first this season under new owner Jose Bautista. They're a team that really relies on keeping the ball possessing, and Colorado Springs just didn't let them do it. They found enough opportunities to get that one goal and saw things out defensively. So kind of two teams that make their mark on controlling territory, keeping solid in terms of their structure. Really interested to see how that plays out.
As we zoom out here, as a expert, you watch a lot of USL. You cover a lot of stuff. Your social media feed at USL Tactics. Great insights there. How have you enjoyed covering USL in 2024 compared to years past?
Yeah, I mean, the big change for me has been the introduction of the USL Super League on the women's side, something that I don't think has got enough love on a national scale. But that's a first division sanctioned women's soccer league that's giving opportunities to players who frankly aren't quite at the level to be starters in the NWSL, but that's 8 cities. That's about 150 roster spots that are now providing a real salary for people to go and pursue their dreams. And I've been all in on that. In terms of the league itself, I think the product has never been better on the field on the men's side. You've seen these teams improve. You've seen players get longer contracts. Teams find a little bit more consistency in a way that adds to the storylines, allows clubs to develop a system and a style, and that has only done good things. We continue to see the youth development really stand out as well. I referenced Lou City earlier. They've got multiple players who came up through their academy system, which is pretty unique, but it's increasing, right? It's a trend across the USL that some of the best players out there were homegrown. And I think it makes it special to watch if you're someone in those cities seeing one of your own come through.
Let's throw up a question from our chat. KY is always here, so let me mention. Well, this is Nicholas Murray, but KY is also asking about Brooklyn FC. I think he's asking about the USL Championship version of Brooklyn FC, while of course Nicholas Murray is referencing the USL Super League women's team that Brooklyn FC has entered in that league. Do you know anything about the future of Brooklyn FC on the men's side, John?
Well, I was lucky enough to make it out to their home opener for the women's league. Played up at Columbia in that one, but they're going to be based out of Coney Island, where the New York Cosmos used to play at the end of their NASL era. Some rumors floating around about the coaching search for them, but yeah, they're going to be out there in Brooklyn starting up for 2025. Them and Lexington SC are going to be the new two new clubs for next season in the championship.
Okay, it's good. The good information. Growing in USL Championship, growing USL League One. Super League off and running. Everything looks great. Now, okay, why don't we go ahead and touch the third rail just for a second, Rob, before we let go of John Morrissey. I think you might know what's coming. Everywhere you go, when you talk to American soccer fans who are very invested, they'll look at our league system and say, where's our promotion and relegation? And, John, even if you don't imagine MLS signing on, and, of course, they have their own operation at a lower division level, there's always this thought the USL, and they've fainted in this direction a couple different times. We had a leadership change and things have kind of settled in. But I know that there is coverage of this. Is the USL seriously considering promotion and relegation within its men's ranks anytime soon?
It's always a topic that comes up at the Board of Governors meetings that the league has annually. It's something that is on the minds of the people who run this league. What I would say is baby steps, and they're trialing things to gradually draw the leagues closer together. So you saw in USL League One this season, the introduction of the Jägermeister Cup, sort of like the in-season tournament for the NBA or something like the FA Cup in England. Right now, that's only for the third division. The sense is that as we move into 2025, there's going to be group stages, a knockout round that is involving League One and the championship. Is kind of this, I don't want to say it's a test balloon for Pro Rel, but it's bringing things together, showing that there is viability to that competition. Maybe it leads to Pro Rel, maybe it's not, but it is something that is at least loosely on the table in the future.
Well, thank you so much, John. You can find John Morrissey online at USL Tactics, and his work is on Backheeled and the USL Show. Thank you so much for sharing all this on the world of United Soccer Leagues. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
All right. Be sure to like and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel is the key for the show moving forward. At MKickaround on X and Instagram, and morningkickaround@gmail.com is the way to write us a note. Whoo, great stuff there from John. Let's take a quick break and come right back.
Let me just throw this in, Rob, because we are interactive and we got people watching. And if you watched any of that with John and you liked it, let us know who else you want to hear from on the show. I mean, let us know who else you think would be a good guest, whether it's USL Topics or USL Super League or NWSL, MLS. It doesn't matter. Let us know who you want to see on the show because we do want to work in more guests as we move forward on Morning Kickaround. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, we're going to jump right into today's hot topic, some rumors here on Morning Kickaround. Ending our Monday show here with a hot topic. We're going to flip it a little bit. Hot or not, United States men's national team player transfer rumors. They were circling around. I don't know if, international window gives people a little bit more time to get creative on the keyboard. But
Oh yeah.
there
Oh,
was
yeah.
some international rumors brought up. Which one would you like to start on first?
Well, let me just say that I think it's really hard if you are paying any attention at all, if you are thinking beyond just a basic fan responding to news kind of level, not to be absolutely cynical about so much of what's out there when it comes to transfer rumors, Rob. This is a business unto itself, right? And transfer rumors very rarely can be taken at face value. And I say very rarely because there are some that occasionally, oh, look, that guy signed for that team after 3 months ago or 4 months ago or 6 months ago, we heard there was interest. Yeah, that happens. Clearly that happens. A spark turns into a fire at some point in some places. But lots of times these things are posturing, right? They're meant to create a market. They are efforts to get a conversation happening that may not have happened before. They are trying to create something out of whole cloth in order to wish it into existence. And so it's really hard sometimes to look at this stuff and go, yeah, okay. Let's ponder what that team could do with that player, because most of the time it's bullshit, you know?
I feel like I was prepared for the age of fake news in the era we lived in because I followed, soccer news, and I knew about, with
Yeah.
football transfer
Yeah.
rumors, I knew what fake
Yeah.
news looked like about 10, 15 years ahead of
Uh-huh.
that coming into the zeitgeist of you
Right.
see something written and you're like, that's just not reality. So
Look, let me just say this too. No, never mind. I'll save it because I do want to be pointed about some of this conversation. I was going to try to be nice, but I think I'm going to have to get the knives out just a little bit. So you set us up. You said which one do I want to talk about?
hot or
I don't
not?
think it matters. Go ahead, throw one at me, and we'll respond here. In the moment.
I saw online this weekend Ricardo Pepi being linked to Bayern, Atleti, and Dortmund.
All right, this is beyond the Liverpool interest that apparently Ricardo Pepi also has, which is I don't know. And okay, so this is where we will come, right? This is what we'll start with. First of all, is Ricardo Pepi a talented player?
Yeah.
Yes, he is a talented player. He is also not starting. Now, at the best team in the Netherlands, that's the best team in the Netherlands, but he's not starting at PSV Eindhoven. And if we were being kind to the Dutch league, we could maybe put it sixth in all of Europe in terms of league quality, right? If we're being kind, there would be a debate. People, I don't know if they're sixth. Maybe Portugal, maybe Belgium. Belgium's a stronger league than you think it is. We could do all. I don't want to have that debate. Let's just, for the purpose of this argument, say, there's reason to think of the Dutch league as the sixth best league in Europe. He's not starting at the sixth for the top team, but in the sixth best league in Europe. And suddenly he has interest from read those teams again. And again, I'll throw in Liverpool because you didn't mention them. Go ahead.
Bayern Munich, which is a good team, I've heard. Atleti.
Yeah.
Atleti.
Bayern Munich is one of the best goal scorers of the last couple decades. Correct? Is that right?
Yeah. Is Pepe going to displace Kane? Question mark.
Okay. Yeah, Ricardo Pepe. And
Atleti.
Those things are like
Atletico Madrid.
Atletico Madrid. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, okay, but they went out and spent a bunch of money, if I'm not mistaken, on their own center forward this past summer. Go ahead. Continue.
And Borussia Dortmund.
Borussia Dortmund. Okay. Maybe there's a little bit more possibility there, only because Dortmund is a developmental club in a lot of ways. They want to win titles in Germany. They want to be in the Champions League. They made a final, but of course, there's also there's other things there. I don't want to just go bullshit, and then be done with it. Like that feels like we're not even giving it proper. We're not giving Ricardo Pepi his due, because I do think a move is possible in the near future. And just because he's stuck behind somebody who is locked in and the captain of his club at PSV Eindhoven in Luke de Jong doesn't mean Ricardo Pepi couldn't blossom somewhere else. But some of this also comes from a tweet from Fabrizio Romano. Okay, Fabrizio Romano. According to Fabrizio Romano, Ricardo Pepi is one to watch in this transfer window, right? Like in this next window, right? And Romano is out there saying Ricardo Pepi has interest, yada, yada, yada. Fabrizio Romano, he's even less trustworthy than sort of a random rumor you come across via Transfer Market or via whatever website, whatever transfer rumor mill website, whatever Spanish newspaper is churning these things out, trying to capture clicks. Fabrizio Romano is not, generally speaking, a trustworthy source. Now, it doesn't mean he doesn't
once
have good
was.
information. I'm not saying. Okay, here's the thing. There is an amount of information. There's some of the things that Fabrizio Romano puts into the world that are fairly accurate and true, and maybe have some actual real world information behind them. But the man has become a business unto himself. Remember when he was tweeting out F1 transfers, different drivers. This driver was going to go to this new team. That to me was the moment when it was like, all right, this isn't just a dude who's got sources. This is now somebody who is being paid to drop information, even real information, right? Even real information like the F1 stuff. Ricardo Pepi is being paid, compensated in some form or fashion to do that because he helps publicize these things. And I saw it stated flat out, and I don't know this to be a fact, so I gotta get in my own head about this, whether I want to say it out loud. But did somebody pay Fabrizio Romano to tweet about Ricardo Pepi?
It's hard. It's hard to argue against it when the timing of everything comes out. And in his agent, I mean, he had that move to Germany that didn't go so well, and then he's found a place in Holland, but he's not getting a lot of playing time. So it seems like the manufacturing industry is working hard here on his behalf. And while we're going through this, I want folks to throw into the chat transfers you would like to see while we're doing this.
We're just going to conjure transfers now? That's what we're doing? We're just going to, okay, I would like to see.
Hey, we're talking about people conjuring transfers, so I figure the listeners and the viewers, what do they want to see?
Yeah, if you want to live in a fantasy world and conjure transfers, you're more than welcome to do that. I mean, certainly we could ponder which of, and look, most people are going to be talking about U.S. men's national team players here. Let's just be honest that this is we're Americans. This is an American show. We are coming. Okay, my man Mike Thomas is being a little out there, killing it up into the Philadelphia Union. Okay, or does he mean Union Omaha? Which one do you? No, I'm just kidding, Mike. I know he's a Union fan.
One's likely to win another championship before the other.
Ouch! That's kind of cold. Look, we're mostly talking about the U.S. men's national team and sort of who needs a move from that. Okay, here's one. Actually, Mo Salah to NYCFC. We pondered Red Bull, NYCFC, but I don't think he's going to want to play in a baseball stadium. But I don't know.
Or for
great players did before. How about Tanner Tessman? Can we get Tanner Tessman out of Lyon? And I know he's not like the U.S. men's national team player people care as much about, right? But Tanner Tessman is playing at a club that could be relegated to Ligue 2 because they owe 500 million euros. They have 500 million euros worth of debt. John Textor's Eagles soccer group or sports group or whatever it's called, football group, probably. Let's get him out of there. I'm thinking Tanner Tessman. I mean, he obviously started out in Italy after making the move from FC Dallas. Wow. Man, where could we get Tanner Tessman? Where could we put him? Bundesliga, mid-table Bundesliga somewhere would be nice. Maybe. I don't know how much he would cost, but there it is. I mean, look, Pepe's the number one because he's stuck behind a center forward that's not going to get him a lot of playing time in Holland. Jedi Robinson, I'm okay with where he's at. He's already one of the best left backs in the world. I don't need him to move, but I do think people imagine he's capable of playing at a place like Liverpool. So there is that. Who else? Yunus Musa is not getting a ton of playing time at AC Milan, but I think he's developing. I don't know if I want to take him out of there yet. Go ahead.
I was going to say another player that was rumored over the weekend was Johnny Cardoso to Spurs and Villa.
That's going to happen. One of those moves. Okay, I don't think this is a Romano report. This is that has option on Johnny Cardoso that they can take. I think it's in the winter. I don't know what's going on with other cameras, but I think it's in the winter. I don't, and then if they don't take it, somebody else can come in and grab Johnny Cardoso. He does seem to have a Premier League future in front of him. I think there's actual fire to that smoke. I don't know. I don't know if I want yet. I'm not sure I'm quite there to wanting it to happen. But he's he's growing. He's a talented player. He's been identified. Let's see. I don't. But at the same time, I don't wish for players to have to be stuck in a lesser situation if there are teams coming for them, because it's hard to say no. Like, we wondered if Weston McKennie was going to hack it in Italy when he left Schalke for Juve. What the heck's going on here? He's going to Juve? And while he's had some bumps because of managerial changes and the like, he has thrived, frankly put, at Juve. And we were not wrong, but we were, as Americans, we were hesitant about it, and it's turned out to work out. So maybe John Cardoso is on the same kind of path.
And then kind of wrap this up. Christian Pulisic, always the subject of transfer speculation, it seems. 3 teams listed, apparently interested in the American talisman. Liverpool, Manchester United, and West Ham all linked.
Okay, so let's take these individually. Liverpool, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't hate it.
I personally want, it would be cool in the back of my mind, maybe not immediately, but kind of follow the Mo Salah timeline. It's like, rise in Europe, have Chelsea, a time at Chelsea, go to Italy, and then.
Yes, I agree. I think Christian Pulisic could be fine. I mean, he being at Chelsea didn't work out for a lot of reasons. I think that's as much about Chelsea and the club it is as much as it is about England, right? Or the style of play in the Premier League or anything like that. Obviously, Chelsea's also in London. I think Liverpool, a little bit more removed from London, could be good for Pulisic. Obviously, there's lots of pressure. It's tons of pressure, but you're playing in front of one of the best crowds in European football. You're playing for a manager who clearly has the vibes going really, really well right now at Liverpool. It would be a lot of pressure if he was asked to, like, replace Mo Salah, right? Just like he was sort of asked to replace Eden Hazard at Chelsea. That's a lot. That puts a lot of pressure on him. He didn't have that burden at Milan. He was sort of allowed to grow into himself because that was Leao's team, and now there is that. So I think that's possible. You said Manchester United and West Ham were the other two?
Yes, sir.
No and no, thank you. No, thank you, and not at all. Nope. United, no, for the reasons that we have already talked about and everybody has talked about in football. And then obviously West Ham, because what is West Ham right now? They're slumming it for Christian Pulisic. And no offense to Hammers fans, because I know they love their club, but that is slumming it for Christian Pulisic. That would be a massive step back. Don't do that at all.
Yeah, Champions League in Italy is, you got to believe, is far superior to, middle to lower league with, there's going to probably be a managerial change at some point soon. Instability in the locker room, instability with coaching. That's not what's going to add to Pulisic thriving.
Well, look, there's still a chance that Fonseca doesn't last much longer at Milan, and there will be some turmoil there. And Milan is kind of a chaotic club. They're a chaos club in a lot of ways, especially now because they are chasing Inter and they're chasing Juve and the money that those clubs can bring to the table that Milan just frankly doesn't have. But everybody still expects Milan to be a competitor for Scudettos and for the Champions League because of the history of that club, right? And I think. Pulisic is thriving in that environment, sort of being asked to help carry a historically important club. He's doing a good job of that. But we've heard him talk about the vibes. We've heard him talk about Italy. We've heard him talk about the lifestyle. And it would be a fundamental change of lifestyle to go from Milan to Merseyside. So I wonder if Christian will want it from a personality and personal perspective, or if he will feel caught up in a wave. Because Milan got a budget rate on him. They got a deal on Christian Pulisic relative to what he's delivered them. And that because his price was depressed by the bad time at Chelsea. It's going to go back up. And I don't know what the number is. Do you have a number, Rob?
We're talking about 60, yeah.
60. 60 is not nothing. 60 is pretty significant money. And Liverpool has spent a little bit of money recently, but that would be a big outlay for Liverpool, which is much more conscious of their budget and smart with their money than, say, their rivals over in Manchester, who may be like, what, 100 million? Let's go buy him, no matter what he's done.
Now, throw 100 million at someone you don't even know if they're going to fit in your team.
Right, exactly, that kind of thing. I mean, again, so let's bring in some comments, because I do think that this is good for our listeners. Mike Thomas, Liverpool will be most interesting of those three. That's a guarantee. We well said that. This is from KY. Puli's salary at Milan is low. Could see him leaving for a better payday. Absolutely. The Italian team.
That's the only way West Ham would work there.
Also might feel like unfinished business and wanting to prove himself in the Prem. Yes, that's possible. I wonder how much of a driver that really is for Christian Pulisic personality-wise. Again, this is what I'm saying. being big man on campus in Milan has to feel good. Again, I think that I think it's a very, as much as there is pressure at Milan, I think it's a very different atmosphere than being in England. And KY again, do we think of Pulisic of having success in Italy because he's better now, or the level is lower than England? I think it's dos. It's both those things. Like, I think it is that Italian football, generally speaking, especially down the table, is not as good as the Premier League. And so week to week, but of course he was hurt a bunch. That he never got ahead of steam at Chelsea for a long period of time, for a couple stretches, but not a long period of time. But I do also think he's better now. I think he's come out of it personality-wise, like emotionally, psychologically, come out of England and found a happiness level. And that, I think that matters. He's not making it into the Liverpool. I don't think that's true. Now, why I say that I don't think that's true is because there's clearly, I'm not going to say it's rotation, but there's, and there is a hierarchy at Liverpool in the attack, Rob. You would know this better than me. But it definitely feels like Arne Slot's willing to use all of the pieces available to him, especially since they are competing on multiple fronts. And I don't know that Pulisic would be in the 11 every single time for Liverpool, but he would get, 20 starts in a Liverpool season, I think, pretty easily.
In my opinion, the only thing that has ever really held Pulisic back is health. When he's fit and in form, sky's the limit, to be honest. When he was at Chelsea, it was mostly whenever he was held out of the team was when he was trying to regain form after, reoccurring injuries. And I do think that, as we kind of marinated on it here through discussion, if Salah does end up, signing it somewhere else in January and does, and probably would leave at the end of the season, I do think that there is a spot in that attack rotation. They have 5-6 attacking players, and that could open the door for a Pulisic.
So let's consider this, all right? Because this is the list from KY. Luis Diaz, Cody Gakpo, Mo Salah, Chiesa. By the way, I've seen it already pondered that Chiesa could go back to Italy, that it just hasn't worked out. He came in injured. He hasn't gotten ahead of steam. I don't know that he's completely happy with his playing time at Liverpool right now. So Chiesa might not be on the board. Again, Salah could leave. His contract status is up in the air at this point. I know Liverpool wants to keep him. They're not ready to say goodbye to Mo Salah quite yet. I do think all of this is summer. We're not talking about January. None of this is going to happen. I can't imagine that's going to any of it's going to happen in January. Look, you know what Diaz is going to stay. Gakpo is going to stay. Gakpo is versatile, can play in a couple of different spots. Pulisic is only going to be a wing player. So who does he need to beat out on a regular basis? Because Darwin Nunez is not the concern. Luis Diaz, Cody Gakpo are the concern, especially since Gakpo has become more of a wide option for Liverpool than he might have originally been targeted as.
So that would be a tough move. Obviously, if you're moving to one of the top teams in England, you're going to have to beat out some excellent players to get there. With that said, this is just off the wall. Do you think that there's a spot for him at a Spurs?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think he would walk into the Spurs team. I mean, I think they have talent too, but man, Spurs.
Would you want him there?
Here's the thing. I don't wish Christian Pulisic gets Spurs. We had that one little moment where Dempsey was there before he came back to Major League Soccer and joined Seattle. I don't remember how many games he played for Tottenham.
It was a half season or a year and a half. I can't remember.
I don't remember. It was like a year. It was like a season, but he had trouble getting into the team. And there was, it was clearly at the point where he was on the backside of his career in England. And so it didn't work. We're talking about Christian Pulisic at his peak, in his prime. I think he would play a lot for Tottenham. However, I would not wish having to follow Tottenham on American soccer fans. I don't wish that on them. I love Ange Postecoglou as a personality, as a guy, as a what do they call them down there in Australia? Are they blokes?
Yeah,
mites?
they're blokes.
Mites. I love that guy. I don't want to root for his team because I don't want to be doing this all the time. I don't want to be having heart attacks every week.
We're the best. We're the best or we're the worst. No in betweens.
No in between. No in between when you're a Spurs, when you're riding that roller coaster at Tottenham Hotspur.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, Morning Kickaround. Tell your friends, tell your family, acquaintances, enemies, all of the above. We are Morning Kickaround on YouTube, and we're ticking along on our goal to 500 on our path to 50K. Follow us along on X and Instagram, or write us a note on morningkickaround@gmail.com. United States playing Jamaica. Will they take care of business, Jason?
Will they take care of business? Yes, they will. My prediction is 3-0 to the United States. I'm being extra positive today. Rob, what do you got?
I believe a more professional 1-0 win. They skate through, and Postacoglu, or not Postacoglu, Pochettino gets carried off the field in St. Louis.
Okay. 1-0, and he gets carried off the field in St. Louis. Wow. That's
And
intense.
everyone will be wiping away the tears of the day that we made it to the Nations League semifinal.
All right, there it is.
All right. See you folks on Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Morning Kicker.
All right, we lost.